All right, well, thanks for coming today. We appreciate it, to Artificial Intelligence Unlocking Student Potential.
So my name is Keith McCrae, as you just heard. All that stuff there on the side of the screen, I like to refer to that as my very expensive wallpaper, when really it's the pictures that matter. It's those two kiddos as to why we do what we do. It's the kids that come through our door every day, regardless of the type of school that we teach in. It's their world, and we really just need to try to make it a better place than when we found it.
So again, my name's Adam Guyman, and again, all that stuff's up there. It really doesn't matter the word part, but there's two girls do. This is my why. This is why I do what I do every day. And also for other people's children is why I do what I do every day. And I think that's why we're all here. I think it's why we do what we do as educators. So, and that's what we're here to discuss, kind of like this new world that they're entering with AI, and we're entering it with them. And we're all stumbling and kind of fumbling around with it. And it's unknown, but I just watched my youngest, Marin, up there, learn how to walk over the last few years. And that's what we're kind of doing here. So we don't have all the answers, but we're gonna help kind of like we're gonna support each other along the way.
So today, really what we're going to do is we're going to do a quick look into what artificial intelligence actually is, how we can use it with our students, the problems that it's going to pose, because nothing we know is ever all good or all bad, how we can use it with our classroom, with our class, and how we can help our students utilize it.
So let's start off like generative AI, and we've been here all day, listened to all the AI, like what is AI? You know, a lot of people have discussed that. So what it is, it's a high-level generative, tool. It refers to a category of AI models, and it'll create text, images, presentations and stuff for you. What it's not is it's not taking over the world. This is not Skynet. Arnold Schwarzenegger and the Terminator aren't coming after you right now, okay? If Arnold is, that sounds more personal. But it can't generate anything brand new, really. And it's not capable of really providing for itself. Just remember, it still has to be plugged in. So if you are worried about that, just find the plug and unplug it. It'll eventually die.
So we keep hearing that artificial intelligence really burst onto the scene in November of 2022, and that couldn't be further from the truth. Artificial intelligence actually is not a spring chicken. In the 1950s, Alan Turing actually suggested that if humans use knowledge, logic, and reasoning to make decisions, why can't we have machines do the same?
And let's just take a look back in the 1950s at an actual computer, folks. This is an entire room for one computer. And sitting on top of this podium right now is another, and sitting in my hand, in my pocket, is another. So we've been at this for a while. In fact, I understand this is kind of like can be a scary time, but honestly, it's just a further progress of us as humans on this earth.
Yeah, those computers back then, the reason why they couldn't do it was because they lacked the capability of it. They couldn't remember anything. Like Ted Lasso said, they were a goldfish. They could execute commands, but that was it. So back in the 50s, they actually went and had their first conference surrounding artificial intelligence, and that was in 1956 in Dartmouth. Over the next couple of years, we saw the emergence of ELIZA, which showed promise towards problem solving using real world language. Then in 1982 to 1990, Japan started pumping really big bucks into their 5th generation computer. In the 90s to 2000s, we had Moore's Law, which pretty much said the memory and speed of all the chips were gonna double each year to the point where they've actually surpassed what we need them to do. If you guys remember, late 90s, we had Deep Blue, which was the first artificial intelligence that was able to beat a human chess champion. And then later in the 2000s, we had Watson on Jeopardy.
So here are some examples of artificial intelligence that have kind of been around our lives for literally the last few decades. Anywhere from chatbots to e-payments and smart cars, navigation apps, Text editors, how many of you like the fact that it'll change the incorrect spelling that you have, predictive text and stuff like that? All of this has to do with, all of this is AI, okay, in the background. So don't worry, it's not taking over your lives. I also want you to know that what a dynamic time we are living in. I feel like the last time we've actually had a dynamic this big in the human race was back when we moved from oral history to written history. And you can look it up, but there's actually quotes out there from Socrates and Plato. Both have quotes. They were around during that transition period. And they both wrote about how truly, the written language will truly make the human race less intelligent. And here we are defending written language. We're afraid it's going to be taken away. It isn't.
Although I will say that the social media stuff is always listening. My wife and I had one conversation about going to Disney, and now that's all that's on my Facebook feed. But if you look at this infographic, this kind of shows just how pervasive technology's become in our everyday lives. What you see up there is the time that it took each application to reach 100 million unique active users. So we started with Google Translate that took just over 5 years to hit that mark. ChatGPT, when it came out in November of 2020, or 2022, I apologize, took 2.
Which, if you remember, well, maybe you don't know, but the most valuable thing out there is not gold, it's not a gem, it's data. So just think about that, 2 months and over 100 million people are starting to use it. So how can we use AI in education? Well, there's a lot of different language models out there, and there's a ton more coming.
So some of the ways that I've seen it used with teachers, and I've helped teachers use it, is you'll notice in the top corner it says, debate the bot. Now, when I taught 5th grade, we always focused on deforestation. And it was very hard to find a 10 or 11-year-old student that was pro cut down the trees and kill all the cute animals. And because they didn't believe in it and they weren't behind it, their work wasn't the best it could be. So now what we can do is we can assign those unpopular stances to the bot. Have the bot generate the argument for why deforestation should happen and allow your kids to analyze that text, analyze that argument, locate those key weak points in it and how they can construct an argument back to it. Writing practice. How many times have we asked students to write something and then given them or shown them the rubric that was going to be used, but never gave them practice with the rubric? We can now have Google Bard, ChatGPT, Perplexity AI, any number of text generative AIs create a text and have the students use the rubric to grade the text. Let the student really see what a 5 looks like, what a 4 looks like, and defend why they graded it that way. Then have them write it, because now they have that deeper understanding of that rubric. They know what they're looking for. They know what those numbers truly mean. Communication is another big one. If you spend any more than 5 minutes on any social media, you will tell we as a species cannot communicate. It is horrible. You can actually use ChatGPT, Google Bard to create the question for an upcoming unit with your class. I did this with a high school teacher. They were doing World War II. They constructed the question they wanted to know about the cause of World War II. It spit out the response. Then they started going through the unit. And as they learned more, they understood that their question wasn't quite giving them what they wanted. So they refined the question. And then they worked through the unit some more, refined it again. So at the end, they had artifacts showing how their understanding of the word choices that they made when posing the question truly affected the answers they were getting back.
As a student growing up, I got C's, D's, and F's like a champion, and I worked really hard for those C's. I have a learning disability. I have ADHD. I'm proud of it. I think there's something wrong with you if you don't have it. I'm the normal one in my world. And there is not a day that goes by since these tools have been released that I do not use them, and it has not enhanced my personal daily life. It is very hard for me to get ideas out of my head and down onto paper, whether it's written or it's typing. But I'm really good at getting them out from my head and out my mouth. Got me in trouble a lot in school too. Hence why I'm an educator. I get paid to talk now, right? So for me, every day I'm in there. I will write out my thoughts. And then what I'll do is I will go in and I'll use one of the many platforms that are out there and I'll ask it to please reword it for me so that I don't have to spend hours, minutes, trying to figure this out. It helps to streamline those parts of my daily job. And honestly, who's that hurting? No one. So what problems can it pose? Now, AI, yes, there are some problems. This is the education side. So no matter how we feel about AI, it doesn't matter. We're living in our world. This is our world. Our girls, our kids, son, the students we have in our classroom, we're trying to prepare them for their world. And we're living in ours. And our job is to make sure that they're doing it safely. So while it can certainly revolutionize education, yeah, there's a whole bunch of challenges out there, and we need to discuss it with them.
So one of them is the lack of personalization. Machines can't replicate human emotions. Bias and discrimination, as Adam said earlier, these machines are feeding off what we give it. So if we are feeding it biased and discriminative information, that's what it's going to reproduce again. Dependence on technology. We need to be careful that we're not becoming over-dependent on it and losing the human qualities that we have. And of course, data privacy and security. It's no longer really a question of if platforms get hacked, now is more of a when.
And when you think about it, when we know all of our students, every kid, K-12, is exposed to and is using this technology. This is more of an adult problem than it is a kid problem, right? The problem for them is they just don't know how to be safe on it. For adults, we're just trying to ban it because it's scary. And for them, they're just throwing their stuff out there. We need to make sure that we're protecting them in what I like to call the NIL, the name, image, and likeness, the NCAA reference. The kids get that, but we need to protect them. We need to protect their PII, their personal identifiable information. We don't want all of that stuff out there. We as educators should be the ones promoting that, showing that every day, talking about it. Digital citizenship. We need to help them understand that their data can be sold and can be used and why they shouldn't be putting that stuff out there. So another challenge is cheating, okay? So we love talking about that, love talking to English teachers all up and down the eastern seaboard, right? So we always go to, let's use Turnitin and let's use this program to try to catch them from cheating. Well, at Texas A&M, right, they actually held up graduation because a professor was saying that, students were using AI to write their work, and they weren't. They weren't. In fact, if you try to use Turnitin, they found out that if you just kind of get rid of the commas, it went from 100% AI to 0% AI usage. It's all using an algorithm. We were just looking today, even a lot of times Turnitin and these other types of platforms will also just start saying that your cited work is AI generated. I mean, we really need to be careful when using these types of tools because our students also, there's also tools to get around those. So it's kind of like, what are we focusing on? Are we focusing on just catching kids cheating? Or are we focusing on what it is they're actually learning? And maybe we need to change the way we're testing and assessing students.
So then how could we use it in a class safely, responsibly, and ethically?
So look at all, these are the most popular AI creation tools so far, and that's why we put the ... so far. There are so many coming out, it's absolutely ridiculous. I just two show up in my email today that I had never heard of, okay? There's extensions and add-ons and, new programs and new apps that are coming out all the time. Some of my personal favorites are Perplexity AI. I do like that because basically you can ask it whatever you want and then it shows you where it's getting its information from. That's actually really good. We should be we should be showing our students that, modeling that, and then checking on that. We have we have up here Google Music LM. It will actually create its own music. There's another one called Whisper AI out there, and Whisper AI is really neat. I don't have that one up here, but Whisper AI is a really neat idea. But the point is that it's learning every single dialect that is out there in the world. And imagine what that could do. You could be, just think when you go to the United Nations. You need a translator for all of those different languages. Well, an AI robot, you'll just pop in your earbuds, an app, open up the app, it's just listening, and you can speak in whatever language you want, and they're hearing it in their own. How amazing would that be for our students? Is this scary? I don't know. I think that sounds pretty cool.
Before you move on, and who's going to create those apps? The bottom part, you see Raise. Raise is a curriculum designed and put out by MIT to help students develop their own AI platforms. I had a junior at my high school last year actually created a platform for students with ADHD that would recommend and then show cooking recipes for specific foods that would help them get their concentration under control. I mean, that's a 17-year-old. That is absolutely amazing.
Tome, real quick. Tome is just a great AI tool to create presentations. And again, these are constantly changing. We have the text-to-image icon up here. This text-to-image feature is part of Canva, and kids can just type in a word, and it'll create an image for them. Oh, and by the way, if you have that link to this presentation, all of those are linked out. So all of those are hyperlinked, so you can go to all of those and check them out. And then another way to use these tools is we have 15 ways to shift writing instruction here using just ChatGPT, but honestly, you could use it using Bard or any of the other ones. So this comes from the AI-infused classroom, but honestly, use it as a research assistant, okay? Teach students how to use AI tools to summarize articles. All right? I think we need to re-look at how we are assessing our students and how we are looking at what real learning is. If a kid can ask AI to do it, kind of think we need to look at our test and go, how about we ask them to, I don't know, use AI, and then they can stand up and debate it. There's two standards out there we never get to. They're the listening and speaking ones. And I dare say that in America and across the world, we're really good at one of those two things. It's probably more the speaking, not so much the listening. So having that opportunity to present and debate and listen to other sides would probably really help benefit us all. Vocabulary expansion, encouraging students to use it to come up with new words or phrases or to write something for a teacher, like a summer day in Lancaster County, right? So let's write a story about summer day, and you could have a first grade class. They could predict what words, what descriptive words or what adjectives might show up. Okay, so they write them all down, and then they can actually see what the bot created and also learn new words. Okay, all right. So so another way, another tool is AI-assisted role play. I really like this for students to explore. It can help generate these ideas and these themes beyond their, just what it is they know. I was one of the students, I'm stuck. I don't know what else to do. I don't have any other ideas. Let's ask the bot. There's nothing wrong with that. By the way, a lot of these AI programs are moving from 18 and older to 13 and older. And that's been less than a year.
So really what we've been focusing on up here, guys, is IA over AI, intelligence augmentation over artificial intelligence. How we can work with these bots to create something that our students couldn't on their own, that the bots can't create on their own, working together. as in, and we do that by introducing them nice and slow. We provide the support as we build them through it, looking at the critical thinking aspect and keeping up to date with everything. That's probably going to be the hardest thing to do.
So just so for everybody, as our time is starting to wind down here, we have a whole bunch of resources here that you can click on. Takes you to a Google Sheet. It's has hundreds of links, dozens, I don't know. It's a ton. I forget. I go in there and add stuff to it all the time. There's a QR code right there too. We're constantly adding to it. There's one of the great things in there is there's a lot of prompt generative ideas in there. So I would definitely highly suggest you go and visit this if you get a chance. And then we just want to kind of show this video, kind of help summarize everything that we've been talking about here. This is from TikTok.
All right, I think I have one last thing to share with all of you from our NBC News interview and the stuff that my students said that didn't make the airing. And it was one of my favorite moments because kids today are cool. At one point in time, when my students had their rose-colored glasses on and were really discussing all the possibilities for how cool this technology could be, the reporter asked them, or I guess I should say told them, that one of the purposes of AI is to replace a lot of jobs. He asked them how they felt about that, how they felt as young people entering a world where they needed to get jobs, that about the fact that there was going to be this new technology that was going to replace so many of the jobs they'd be looking to get. But my students didn't run in fear from that one. Their response, I kid you not, was, hasn't that happened in the past? Haven't we seen large groups of workers get displaced by technology? And the reporter said, well, yes. And they said, cool, so we have advance notice on what's going to happen, and we can actually look historically at what happened to those displaced workers and maybe put a plan together ahead of time, play offense instead of defense on this. If in the next 5 to 10 years, AI is going to take the place of most incoming, like, beginner level jobs, then don't we know that ahead of time, and shouldn't we start planning for it? Does that redirect what students should be studying, both in high school and post-high school education? Should we plan today for the deficits of tomorrow, given that this is not the first time in history this has happened? I'm telling y'all, Gen Z is so cool. Even I didn't think of that as an answer. They're just so insightful. So be weary, but have some hope. These kids are here to make our world a better place.
Out of the mouths of babes. I think that's absolutely awesome. Different way of thinking, but thank you for listening. I'm Adam Guyman.
And I'm Keith McCrae, and there's our contact information.
Yep. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I don't sleep much, so I'm happy to answer your questions. If you ask me at 11:08 at night, I will probably get back to you by 11:12. So thank you.